What is up? What is up, guys? Welcome to the Sovereign Life Podcast, episode 25, guys. We are cranking. We are back, guys. Guys, there's a lot that I want to talk about today. Primarily all focused around the future, right? And the narrative that we tell ourselves. Guys, in this life it's really interesting because there is two ways that you can primarily go with things in the way that you operate towards the future, right? And it's interesting because obviously we have 100% control, right? You just have to, that's something that you have to reinforce in your head no matter what, is like, I have 100% control of what happens to me. And you know, the reality is, like, once you own up to that for an extended period of time, it's either extremely defeating. It's extremely defeating in the beginning, but then in the long term, um, you start to realize, like, that's where imposter syndrome kind of goes away, if that makes sense. Because if you have 100% control and you begin to see success and you begin to acquire the accolades and things like that, then it's a whole lot easier to give yourself credit and understand, like, hey, like, I did this. You know, it wasn't just luck, it wasn't just a fluke or whatever, right? So with that being said, in terms of the future, a lot of the time realistically, there's only two methods of thinking about the future. And it's interesting because there are studies done that 80% of people operate out of a space of doing things so that they don't have a certain outcome, right? Out of fear, basically, right? So they spend their entire life trying to avoid pain. Whereas 20% of people are more opportunity minded. Generally, they will act more out of love and courage because they see the opportunities, right? Rather than just trying to be in a state of not losing. You know what I mean? So those are the people who are playing to win. And guys, when it comes down to it, like, that has been almost my entire life. You know, anytime I've been in a scenario where I've been playing to not not lose, right? There's two ways to look at it. You're either playing to not lose or you're playing to win. Um, and any time that I have caught myself in a scenario of playing not to lose, that's ironically the circumstances I attracted, you know, and that's what's so interesting about looking back throughout my life now, you know, versus the way that I choose to operate now, which is playing to win, right? I am looking for the greatest opportunities. I'm looking for, like, basically, how big can I win, you know, and then you just act in line with that and you hold that at the very forefront of your mind and you make sure that you're moving towards that every day. But another thing is, there's always a hero versus a victim story, right? And you'll hear it all the time. And this is something that I literally just probe people for answers whenever I, you know, have a consultation or I talk to someone new. And it's funny because, like, subconsciously we're placing people, like, seeing where they fit in our lives, right? Like, I can literally talk to someone and be like, and ask them a few questions, and depending on how they answer those questions, I either want to be a part of their life or I want nothing to do with them. You know what I mean? But my point being, kind of forgot where I was going with that. um, but my point being is, you can see the people who are, oh, hero versus victim story, right? Everybody goes through hard things, guys. Like, it's inevitable. Everybody goes through hard things. But you can either look at it as, I am the way I am because of the things that I went through, or here, we could even take that a little bit farther because that one's pretty broad. But you can look at it as, I am a failure, or I am this because of the things that I went through. Or you can look at it as, I succeeded despite the things that I went through, right? And here's what I learned. And when you consciously choose over and over and over to be the type of person to succeed despite all the things happening to you, guys, that's like the epitome of what the underdog mentality is. And it's like ultimately that's what people want, like in a success story. You know what I mean? Like nobody wants a success story where the dude just came and won every single thing and succeeded at every turn without any hardship. Um Nobody's inspired by that. What people are inspired by is audacity, or tenacity, is like the ability to go through hard things over and over and over and keep moving forward because you know that that is your goal, that is your dream. And in your head, you keep telling yourself, I'm going to win despite all of this stuff. And the craziest thing about that is if you hold on to that future hard, like strong enough, like if you hold on to that future tight enough, then the crazy part is like you'll look back and whatever the hardships are, like they won't even be anything, and that's the crazy part is like I keep telling everybody that is going through hard things, and I know it's very hard to see when you're in the midst of it, but everybody that I talk to that's going through hard things, I'm like, just realize this is preparing you to go to where you want to go. And I promise one day you will look back and, whether it's bills or, whatever the thing is, a breakup, like I promise one day you'll look back and you'll be like, wow, I can't believe that I was like stressed over that, because that's such a minuscule thing now compared to what they received in proportion to it. And guys, this is the thing that I've seen over and over and over and over in my life is like I have a tendency to hold on very tightly to people specifically, but things and people, and I had a really hard time change with like dealing with change early on in my life, and so it was really hard because it was just like you go through that breakup or you have to pay that bill or whatever, and it hurts to let go, and it puts you through a lot. Like not gonna lie, like it takes its mental toll. But the crazy part is like I always say, guys, looking back now, it's like I 100% would have taken that trade off. Like yeah, it sucked in the time being like during when I was going through it, but guys, the reality is like in the grand scheme of things, that's nothing, because now I'm able to live the life I want. I'm building the business I want. I have the marriage I want. Like I have literally all the stuff that I want. Um, and it's so awesome, So to be able to look back and just be like, yeah, I had to go through some hard stuff and it sucked at the time, but like I 100% would take that trade off. And with that being said, so you can kind of reverse engineer that. You can kind of switch that is when you're going through a hard thing, when you're going through stressful times or whatever, and I've done this in the past, and this is how I got to Natural Olympia, but you can look at a stressful situation and you can be like, okay, this sucks and it's super uncomfortable and I don't like where I'm at right now, but I know where I want to go. And once I get there, the trade off's going to be so much, like the trade off's going to be worth it. You know what I mean? So, like, for example, a really good example of this is like, I remember when I went to Natural Olympia, and at the time, it was crazy. I was living in my fiance's mom's basement, and and I had to pay. It was like $2,500, which at the time was a lot. If you're living in your fiance's mom's basement, 25, you don't just have $2,500 laying around. But I had to pay $2,500 to, pay for travel and stuff and my registration to Natural Olympia in 2021. And I remember how scary that was. And I was like, man, I just like, I can't afford this, But fast forward, right? In my head at the time, I was like, I don't care. I'm going to pay it. I'm going to make it work because I know that I need to be at Natural Olympia. I know that I have to be there. And I just had this like overwhelming feeling of something was going to happen. And one day I'll look back and everything will be fine. So paid the $2,500 to get there. Um, and long story short, man, like I showed up to Natural Olympia. I ended up ninth in the world, which was amazing. Um, but the crazy thing was, I got invited to an after party thrown by Gains in Bulk, which, if you know my family, you know the Grants. It's owned by Braven Grant, who is my brother-in-law now. So I ended up going to the after party, and um, it was at a gym called Fit Club in Vegas. I went there, and I actually had my fiance with me at the time, my coach. We lifted, networked a little bit, talked to people, and then left. And I just remember having this crazy feeling that I needed to be there. And so we left. Anyways, a few years down the road, Nevaeh ends up signing up with my coach, and then we were on the same team together. Me and my fiance ended up breaking up, and about almost a year later, me and Nevaeh start dating, and that's how I got here. But to look back, like, since then we've been, I've gotten married, the business is doing well, like we're building huge, huge, huge things, and it's crazy to look back and be like, dude, I was tripping over $2,500 to get there. Like, I felt irresponsible. I felt like I couldn't afford it. I felt like a failure and all the stuff. But the reality was, like, I just knew that I had to be there. And I think that's the level of faith that most people don't have. So with that being said, is like, you guys just need to understand that if there is a stressful situation, that's okay. It's okay to be stressed. But um, you need to figure out what you need to do to live in line with your long-term goals, and then hold on to that, and just know that at some point it's going to get easier. So, guys, that's the thing, is like, you can hold on to that future, and you can act in line with that, and it's a whole lot easier than you think. You just simply can't fall into doubt, because ultimately doubt puts you in a scarcity mindset, right? And let's go back, right? And we're going to play it out differently. If I had said, oh my gosh, $2,500, I can't afford that, right? And I held on to the money, and I didn't go to Natural Olympia, guys, you know where I would be? Like, I wouldn't be here right now. That's what you guys, like, you know what I mean? I would have, yeah, had $2,500, but who knows? Like, it's just, I would have never got to go do the thing that I wanted to do, and I never would have became who I wanted to become, because I was so focused on money that I sacrificed who I needed to be. So with that being said, you should always put who you need to be above money. And yes, that's going to, like, it's stressful. You have to invest in yourself. You have to go out on a limb to become who you're going to be, which is exactly what I've always said from the beginning. Like, nobody ever achieved anything stress free. Like, that's just the reality of it, is you're going to be stressed. You're going to have to go out on a limb. You're going to have to invest in yourself and all this stuff. So guys, you just have to hold on to that and be like, one day when I'm a pro bodybuilder, or one day when I'm this, then $2,500 won't be a lot. And if you can act in line with that, then things will change really quickly. But at the time, I was selling solar. I was selling solar over the phones, and it was a decent job. I mean, it wasn't in line with what I wanted to do long term, but it did get me by. But the thing is like, had I saved that $2,500, I probably still would have been selling solar today. And that's what people don't get, is like, the $2,500 wasn't a cost, it was an investment. And I invested in my dreams, right? And then I was able to be successful, and then I was able to start a business, and then, you make money. And the crazy part about that is then you look back and you're like, wow, $2,500 was nothing for what I got out of it, right? Like, that was an amazing investment. So that's what you guys need to hold on to, is just like, realize, one, you have to let go of money. You know what I mean? Like, you have to let go of anything that keeps you in your current situation if your current situation isn't perfect, right? And two, like, you have to invest in your dreams and your goals, and like, yourself in order to grow. Like that's how it works. You can't just like imagine a plant. You can't just be like, "Oh, I'm not going to water this plant and I expect it to grow." Same thing. You have to put in time, energy, effort, and money into building who you are, or building yourself into the person that you believe you need to be, so that you can make more money. And it's a flow, guys. Like that's the thing, is money is meant to flow through you. And so many people get stuck in saving every single little dollar that comes their way, that they stop the flow. So, guys, if there's anything you can take from this, just realize that you shape your own future and you have 100% control. No, regardless of how stressed you feel, regardless of how like you feel stuck, or whatever the narrow-sided excuse that you have is, it's not true. Like you are straight up lying to yourself, and you 100% have the ability to go be whoever you want to be. All you have to do is hold on to that dream tight enough and be willing to give up whatever it takes to be that person. So, guys, don't make excuses for yourself today. Like if you're watching this for the next 7 days minimum, do not make excuses for yourself. You know who you want to be. And if you are not living in line with that, then you're straight up just wasting your time. And I mean, I could go into the people around you, right? Because your decisions affect the people around you pretty heavily. So, guys, go into that uncomfortability. Like, now I don't even know if that's a word, but my point being, go into the uncomfortable and just realize that on the other side of being uncomfortable is everything you've wanted. So, at what point are you going to make that jump? Like, what is it going to take? And for me, it took a lot. It took a divorce, losing a fiance, like moving out of my hometown, dropping out of school, like all the stuff. And I finally got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm just going to go be the best bodybuilder that ever lived, the best natural bodybuilder that ever lived. And here we are 5 years later. So we're going to end there, guys. Don't make excuses this week. Just freaking go do it.